Good evening and welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix daily price change predictions video. My name is FPL Nacho and this is a series where we discuss potential FPL price changes to help you build that essential team value on the way to FPL glory. Now, a quick reminder that these FPL price changes aren't an exact science and they can alter. So in order to monitor these closely, head over to fantasyfootballfix.com or download the free app where you can monitor these over on our price predictor. So without further ado, let's take a look at tonight's potential FPL price changes. So these players here have been taken from our price predictor and put onto our watch list, which is available on fantasyfootballfix.com, and it gives you a nice idea of the notable players that are potentially rising or falling in price tonight. And as you can see here, there are some notable players that are rising, the likes of Dennis, who could potentially rise. He's currently rising at 0.5% per hour. Definitely one to watch there, being at 5.2 million. Could be a nice budget option in some teams. Lukaku has been threatening to rise. The reason being is because wildcard transfers do not contribute towards FPL price changes. So his price can potentially be skewed because of many managers bringing him in wildcard. So that one is threatening to rise tonight, currently over the 100% progress bar threshold. And another notable player is going to be Conor Gallagher. He's currently not at the 100% threshold, but he is potentially going to be rising tonight, going up at 0.8% per hour. That's definitely one to monitor. But two here that I really want to take a look at in a bit further detail after this is going to be Antonio, who is actually locked in price right now. There are no worries about him going up tonight. However, it is worth noting that the progress right now is 8.1%. So there's a lot to talk about on Antonio and why managers are bringing him into their sides. But again, no worries about his price increasing tonight. And the other one is going to be Patrick Bamford. Obviously, he's been ruled out for game week 6 for those that don't know. And he is currently seeing managers selling him at 1.7% per hour. Now, this is a player that isn't likely to fall in price tonight, but expect those transfers to pick up pace throughout the evening as managers get wind of this potential injury that he's going to have in game week 6, which has ruled him out. So these are a few players I want to go a deep dive into in the next part of this video. So stay tuned for that. So I think first up, when we look at Patrick Bamford as an FPL asset, we need to look at whether he is worth holding on to, considering he is now out for game week 6. And first and foremost, we need to go back to Mikel Antonio, who was obviously out in game week 5, had a red card. Managers held on to him, and now they are looking at potentially bringing him in. So for those managers that did hold on to Mikel Antonio, very well done. And this is a similar case with Patrick Bamford. It isn't necessarily an easy decision to sell Patrick Bamford, as if it is going to be a shorter term injury with Patrick Bamford, holding him for one game week and bringing him back in game week 7 is a decent strategy to consider. But the big difference between the two is we don't know the duration of Bamford being out. So this is something managers need to consider. And we need to look at the current form that he has been in this season. And when we look at it right now, 1 goal to start off the season in 5 league matches, probably not the sort of level that we want to see Patrick Bamford at. And expected goals of 1.43. And when we look at the games that he has had, you probably want to see a bit of a higher underlying stats for Patrick Bamford. But nonetheless, stats that do show a hint of him having attacking potential in this Leeds side. And 15 shots of 4 of those being in the box is decent viewing for Patrick Bamford. I think the shot volume is there or thereabouts that you want to see from a Leeds asset. But again, the big question is, do we hold on to Bamford going forward, or do we look at bringing in an alternative for him? Now, a brilliant part of the fantasyfootballfix.com website is the top transfer combinations that we can see managers moving towards. And you can see there, the number 1 transfer for Bamford out is into Antonio, with 63.7% of managers making that move across to Antonio, who is now available in game week 6. And some other transfers that managers are making, those who have the luxury to go from Bamford to Lukaku, are doing so at 9.8%. And then third up is St. Maximin at 9.8% as well. So managers clearly seeing some value in the Newcastle forward, but head and shoulders above the rest is going to be Mikel Antonio at 63%. And of course, being a little bit cheaper at 7.9 million, it makes it such an easy move for managers to move across from Patrick Bamford into Antonio. But how do these two fare against each other? Now, a brilliant part of the Fantasy Football Fix website is the player comparison. And when we come into the site here, we can bring up Patrick Bamford that we clearly want to compare him to other players, for example. And Antonio is going to be another asset that we want to have involved in the conversation. And I think I'm going to chuck in a third asset here, and it's going to be St. Maximin because of his recent form, and a lot of managers are discussing him as a potential asset going forward. So when we do look at potential, we've got current goals right now for them, and we have FPL points. And of course, I am going to chuck in to them as well. I'm going to chuck in big chances created to see how they're faring up against each other. And as we can see right now, first and foremost, that we have, it is Antonio, of course, outstatting all of them with goals of 4, 39 FPL points, and 3 big chances created. So it does show that Antonio is probably the guy to go to from Patrick Bamford if you want to go to another asset. But interestingly, when we do look at the assets here, we can see that the predicted points as well over the next 5 game weeks is projected to see Antonio score 26.2 points, St. Maximin at 17.2, and Patrick Bamford at 18.4. Now, of course, while Patrick Bamford is expected to score more points than St. Maximin, it is worth noting that his injury isn't to be sure how long it is going to be the duration for. So it might be a wiser move to potentially go to an asset that we know is how you have guaranteed game time over the next 2 game weeks. And with that all said and done, I think if you don't own Antonio, then he is the guy to go to this game week. So the other player we want to look at is going to be Emmanuel Dennis, who's proved to be a real cheap enabler in FPL teams this season. And with the likes of Bamford, DCL's injury, Antonio's red card, Emmanuel Dennis has been a bit of a shrewd manager's pick over the course of the season so far. At 5.2 million, predicted to rise to 5.3 million tonight. He is somebody that has been very good for managers over the course of the season with 2 goals so far and an expected assist of 0.96. Now when we look at the map here, we can see that he has had 11 shots so far this season. And I do think that it's worth noting that his expected goals is 0.96. So while it isn't exactly at the heights of Lukaku's and Ronaldo's, for example, at 5.2 million, he is showing to be good value in the game. And I think that is exactly what managers are looking for right now, with premiums in FPL. We need to save our cash somewhere, and we'll just have a quick look at Emmanuel Dennis and whether him in comparison to other assets, if he is worth the money at 5.2 million. So once again, I'm going to use the player comparison tool on Fantasy Football Fix to just match up Dennis against some other assets. Now, it's worth saying that these other 2 assets in Armstrong and Pukki are a little bit more expensive, but that is because Dennis is providing such great value in the game that there's nobody really that you can compare him to at that price range. And that is first and foremost what we need to talk about, is at 5.2 million. I really don't think there's anybody close to him at that price that you can afford that is going to guarantee game time. Now, at Watford, it is an argument that with the likes of Josh King and João Pedro in the side, his minutes are going to get managed with Watford rotating that front line as they do. But it does look like Dennis has got that shirt right now. And at 5.2 million, he is looking like brilliant value. But when we do compare him to both Adam Armstrong and Pukki, we can see that first and foremost, over the next 5 league matches, he is actually predicted to score the least amount of points at 12.2 points, whereas Armstrong and Pukki very close to each other at 15.7 and 15.8. And when we look at the underlying stats of both, obviously Dennis and Pukki have 2 goals apiece, whilst Armstrong has 1. And the touches in the opposition box is actually going to go to Adam Armstrong at 23. He's been heavily involved in the Southampton side and somebody that is growing as an FPL asset as the season progresses. Of course, has played slightly more minutes than the other 2, but I really do think that he is somebody that managers need to consider going forward because of the fixture swing for Southampton around game week 8. So although Dennis has been a brilliant asset so far this season, and at 5.2 million, he could easily go alongside the likes of a Ronaldo or a Lukaku and Antonio. If you have that little bit more money in the bank, I do believe that an early move for Adam Armstrong going forward could be a shrewd FPL move in the future game weeks. Now that wraps up today's FPL price predictions video. And of course, guys, as always, these prices aren't an exact science and they can alter. So be sure to head over to fantasyfootballfix.com or download the free app, which provides push notifications so you don't miss any of these FPL price changes. Of course, links are in the description. And as always, a massive thank you to tune into this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, click that subscribe button, and with videos dropping daily and different series, you don't want to be missing out. So hit that notification bell so you get updated at every video. So we will see you same time tomorrow. Cheers.